allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Roll call, please.
Fowler,
Here.
Grandstaff,
Here.
Hale,
Here.
Hall,
Here.
Minton is excused, Bill Parker,
Yes.
Justin Parker,
Present.
Mellon,
Here.
and Webb is excused.
Thank you. All right, approval of the minutes from the August 7th, 2025 meeting.
I was so moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda for September 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are on public comment. Is there anyone that would like to share for public comment? I will just ask that we keep comments to 3 minutes and make sure you state your name and affiliation or address. And I would like to just remind anyone that would like to speak that it's 3 minutes and then we move on. So we're not coming back up 2 or 3 times to make comments. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you, Madam Chair. Justin Danaskis with Danaskis Consulting Development, 900 South Lapeer, Oxford. Here talking on item 9 under unfinished business A, the special land use application for GRAMZ at 15065 32 Mile. My client is Foliage Cannabis, and I'm here tonight. I'm not going to belabor the points and everything made last time. I think this commission is very well apprised of the matter at hand and the facts behind it. And so I'm simply going to ask you just do the right thing, and the same thing you've done for the last 5 years on this ordinance, and apply it just like it's written, and deny this application because they do not meet the 750-foot buffer between facilities, flat out. I did want to take a couple minutes tonight because I did send communications. I'm not sure if they made it to you because what I submitted is the Village of Romeo Cannabis Ordinance and local approval history. And so that clearly states not that you need much of a history lesson because a lot of you have been here throughout this process, but you know, the ordinance was passed in May 17th of 2021. It was amended shortly thereafter, and then you had the various facilities come through my client, Foliage Cannabis, after the fact, and you applied the ordinance as written. We have communications with your previous planner coming from this board not once but twice because of the buffer. My client was going to build a brand new facility in the village, but they had to move their parcel line to meet this requirement. So this lineage kind of lays those different dates out, so there's no question because the ordinance was amended, but all these approvals came after that amendment, and the ordinance still clearly states in one spot, if not another, that it is the nearest property line, not just pick a property line, which makes no sense. And so I want to make sure you receive that, and then also the survey that we provided, which clearly shows that their facility is 641 feet away from my client's facility. And this survey is signed, stamped, sealed, dated from a local surveyor, the same one that we engaged and worked with this very body in this village on this approval. So I just want to make sure you have that extra, data that we had sent over that clearly states that not just on behalf of my client, everyone else that's been approved and denied throughout this process, that you just honor your process and continue to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Denise Policella. I'm an attorney. I represent GRAMZ, and I live in Brighton. I can give you my address if that matters. It's 4200 Sweet Road. I represent GRAMZ, so I think their address would be more appropriate. I appreciate everything Justin said. They're here because they don't want competition, plain and simple. Now, Be that as it may, the most important thing here is the intent of the ordinance. I understand the history, I understand the amendments, but as it stands, there's nothing clear about the language of the ordinance or the buffer language, unfortunately. So what you really have to do, excuse me, is look at the intent of the ordinance. The ordinance was not meant to create boundaries and buffers that were property lines apart. They were meant to keep the facilities apart. You see that in the history of the ordinance itself. You also see that in the language of the ordinance that gives a measurement from churches and schools that's specifically different. Buffers are not setbacks. Buffers are not necessarily distance requirements. Buffers, generally speaking, are boundaries between locations. We are here trying to move into a standalone facility because a co-tenant facility is not going to be a long-term good fit for either our co-tenants who are also business owners in the village and also for the village itself, if that's going to continue to be a stressful situation. A standalone facility that's clearly, I don't have this newest survey, that sounds like 100 feet in difference of surveys sounds very far apart to me. I haven't been able to see their survey or what they sent you, but I spent a fair amount of time on the GIS maps. I think it's easily 750 feet away, give or take a few feet, between the actual facilities themselves. You have a road in the middle, you have undeveloped parcel in the middle, and if that parcel got developed, we wouldn't even be here right now, because the property lines would be where they're supposed to naturally be on 32 Mile. The intent of the ordinance was clearly simply to make sure that these facilities were not all clustered together, both for aesthetic purposes and probably for traffic. And that location where we're proposing to be accomplishes that. It's on 32 Mile, it's a busy area, but these facilities are very much far apart to accomplish the intent of the ordinance, which is simply keeping them further apart than all jammed together. So we would request that you honor our application and consider recommending approval of the SLU.
That's time.
Oh, no problem, thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Anyone else? All right, then we will move on, thank you. Ex officio report.
We did talk about the short-term rental. We brought it back, it will be on the agenda this month. That's it.
Thank you. All right, ZBA representative is not present, so we'll move on from there. All right, that brings us to unfinished business A, special land use application for GRAMZ. This was postponed from our August 7th, 2025 meeting. It is for the 15065 32 Mile Road. I will ask our planner first, Ms. LeVere, if she has, you did give us the updated review.
Yes, I did provide an updated review based on information that was shared at the last meeting. And I think, the big issue we're looking at is, in section 46-393 gives the standards for marijuana facilities, the zoning ordinance standards for marijuana facilities. And, item number 2, all marijuana establishments must be buffered by a distance of at least 750 feet as measured from property line to property line. And I stated that the applicant has provided a survey. It is unclear whether they meet this standard. A survey provided by the applicant gives a distance of over 750 feet, but upon further investigation at the August 7th Planning Commission meeting, a distance between the applicant's east property line and the nearest marijuana establishment's western property line was not provided. The language states that establishments must be buffered by a distance of at least 750 feet as measured from property to property line. That would include the property lines that are nearest to one another or any point between the two property lines. The applicant should verify the distance from reasonable points between the two property lines that confirms that the standard is met. It should also be noted that the village's marijuana business license ordinance also specifies that there shall be a buffer of 750 feet between those establishments as measured from the nearest point of the property line to the property line. And meeting this is also a requirement of standard number 6 in the marijuana facilities ordinance that says compliance with all provision of the Village of Romeo's licensing and regulating of marijuana business ordinance, as well as the Michigan Medical Marijuana Facilities License Act and the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. All those things need to be met, including the village's business licensing. If they specify that this measurement needs to be taken from the nearest point as measured to the property line, then that also has to be met as well. So this is going to be required to be granted a license. I defer to the village clerk that these standards are met. So, in conclusion, the site does meet the requirements for the industrial district. However, it's still unclear if they meet the requirements for marijuana establishments. Verification that the buffer is met needs to be verified. If this information is provided and meets standards, then the Planning Commission can move forward in their consideration. As well, with all special land uses, the Planning Commission does have the right to request additional information if they find it necessary to make an informed decision. In deciding whether to approve or deny a request, the Planning Commission must evaluate each of these special land use standards. Any motion should expressly detail the reasons for such action. If the Planning Commission does decide to approve the special land use request, all other applicable provisions of the Village of Romeo Code of Ordinances, including but not limited to fire safety, building, and engineering, must be met. Furthermore, a motion to approve should be conditioned upon the applicant being granted a license by both the Village of Romeo and the State of Michigan.
Thank you. Okay, so I did a little digging into this, where the boundary lines were on these properties myself, just for my own, because I wanted to make sure as well. I know we had received the map last month that showed some measurements, and then I went back in as well to the county's site to take a look at it, where those were in the measurements. And if we look at the western property line point for foliage, and then go across there, there's a total of 643.21 feet to the east front line. So if you're going nearest point to nearest point, as the business license section says, there's 643.21. Even if you take into consideration the way that the survey was drawn, going from the western point, the frontage on the potential GRAMZ property is only 96.41 feet. So even if you add that to the 643, we're still not meeting the 750. So I'm saying go all the way across the property line to the western point to give them that extra 96 feet. It still falls below the 750 feet. So that's, on either side of that property, it's not meeting that standard. And I did pull up the complete marijuana ordinance as well, so that I could read through that. And it is in that section 557-005 under the marijuana business licenses. There is a paragraph in there that it says, any qualified licensed establishment shall be located in the industrial zone portion of the village industrial, located specifically on the east side of M53 bypass and north of 32 Mile Road. There shall be a buffer of at least 750 feet between establishments as measured from the nearest point of property line to property line. So again, that nearest point would only bring us to 643 feet. That's what I have to add to that. Any other discussion?
Karen or Sarah, did we reach out to Mark as requested? Do we know if that happened?
I know Jamie reached out to Mark. Do you know what? I was kind of kept out of that conversation. But I know Jamie talked to you, right, Janice?
Yes, I did speak to the clerk. I did also speak, I did speak to, Mr. Clark. About whether or not, you know, he should be in attendance at the meeting, whether or not that was, and I explained to him what I just explained to you guys about the measurements of using those maps and the ordinance as it's defined in that, and, you know, that was his, he said, no, it's, that information is accurate of what, that it is stated in there that it needs to be nearest point, and that, yes, that those two nearest points fall below the 750 feet. So that's
And I
what
do
got
know
with
that Jamie had said that because of the discrepancy with the ordinance and what it says, that that was an issue that needed to be corrected, you know, before moving forward, but.
Okay. Anything else?
Madam Chairperson, given all the information we've got, I don't think it would be inappropriate to make a motion to deny the request forthwith because it does not meet the 750 feet requirement as in the ordinance, which is very clear to me. It's 750 feet from the nearest property line to the nearest property line, and I would make such a motion now if I could.
Okay. Did you get all that, or would you like him to?
If you could please repeat that.
All right.
I'm
One more
making a
time.
motion to deny it based on the fact that it is not, does not meet the 750 feet requirement as contained in our marijuana business ordinance, otherwise known as ordinance number 557. More specifically, sections 557-005A, which is very specifically, and I think we can all read English, says they gotta be 750 feet apart from the nearest point to the nearest point.
Chairperson Fowler, if I may, don't forget it's also special land use, so you still need to go through the special land use criteria as well.
I think the actual even submission was in error and a mistake was made. We should not even be having this conversation. And therefore, that's the reason I'm making the motion now.
Right? I mean, that was my understanding, is that because it doesn't, that it shouldn't have come to that point to begin with, that it doesn't meet the criteria for the 750 feet.
So I'd argue the motion's not even needed for denial or approval. It shouldn't have been here.
They need an official action so that they have cause.
Somebody would have to second my motion for this thing to move forward.
Second.
Okay, we do a roll call, please.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, any further discussion before we do roll call?
Justin Parker,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Bill Parker,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to, we have new business. We have item A, it's a site plan review application for a preliminary special land use for the Avery Real Estate Holdings. This is for 114 West St. Clair Street, and okay, I did. All right. So this was, we have a site plan review, which is again, a preliminary site land use review. So if you can, if you wanna go through that.
Sure.
And then just,
So we have a site plan review and also special land use review because this is a mixed-use building. This is located in the CBD district. The applicant proposes to build a 3-story mixed-use building at 114 St. Clair Highway, replacing 2 single-story commercial buildings. New structure will include approximately 3,500 square feet of commercial space, 1,200 square feet of a residential lobby and amenities, 34 covered parking spaces on the ground floor, and the upper floors would feature 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. The design aims to complement the historic downtown traditional style with cast stone or similar material on the first floor and brick veneer plus steel and fiber cement accents above. While the commercial aspect is a permitted use, it's the apartments above that are a special land use. And so that is going to require a public hearing that can be scheduled by the Planning Commission. The site meets the district area height and placement regulations, except for the rear setback, which the Planning Commission has the power to waive. It says while setbacks are not required for front and side yards in the CBD district, a 20-yard rear setback is typical unless waived by the Planning Commission, provided that the adjacent property in the rear is not residential, and the adjacent property abutting the real property line happens to be another CBD property. The applicant has provided 34 parking spaces. Because this is a mixed use, we have to account for parking spaces for the commercial property, as well as the residential units. So based on 3,461 square feet of commercial space, 8 parking spaces are necessary, and for the apartment building, 2 paved off-street parking spaces should be provided for each 1-bedroom unit, and an additional half space is required for each additional bedroom. So with 24 1-bedroom units and 8 2-bedroom units, a total of 68 parking spaces are required. So in total, 76 parking spaces are required. However, only 40 spaces have been provided on site. This results in deficiency of 36 parking spaces that must be addressed by the applicant. The applicant should propose a solution to remedy the shortfall. And loading area was also not identified on the site plan. For the residential units, they meet the requirements for square footage. It's also required that 2 adequate means of egress shall be provided as required by the building code and approved by the fire chief. I'll have to defer to the building official and the fire chief that adequate egress is provided by the site plan. So currently my recommendation, I do not object to the proposed plans, but several issues need clarification. A public hearing needs to be provided for the residential units. And this property also sits on this proposal sits on 2 parcels. So what is the plan? Are the parcels going to be combined before the project is met? Is the intention to keep them separate? I'm just trying to figure out what the plan is for this property. Will the Planning Commission waive the 20-foot rear yard setback requirement? How will the applicants provide the additional 36 parking spaces required? Confirmation of egress adequacy by the building official in the fire department, and just identify where the proposed loading area would be for the site.
Madam Chairperson?
Yes.
Can I ask a question of the planner? Having been a long-term landlord in downtown Romeo, and being aware of the project on the south end of town, it became woefully apparent shortly after it was built that the number of parking spaces was absurdly low, with the fact that the number of people actually living in those condos far exceeded other village requirements. Our requirement for a parking spot per 1-bedroom unit seems to me woefully low. Is this common in other communities?
For multiple unit buildings, yes.
Really?
I'd say that parking language is pretty standard.
There's no requirement for guest parking, no?
Not necessarily. You're just, currently for a single-family home, standalone home, I believe it required 2 spaces.
I understand homes I
Two.
get, but
Right.
1-bedroom apartments are often occupied by 2 people.
Correct.
When each of them has a car.
It's 2.
Yeah, it says,
For
So
a
you're
one-bedroom,
there's
it's
two,
two.
it says
So you're
there
still
are two for
required
one
2
bedroom.
parking spaces per 1 bedroom, and then if you have additional bedroom, you're required a half parking space.
So you have 2.5 for 2 bedrooms.
It's still based on the historical facts of downtown Romeo, woefully inadequate.
This is the language we're working with, though, so. yeah.
Do we have a chance to present? Does the applicant have a chance to talk?
Yeah, I am open to that, yes, please, so that we can, because I have a couple questions.
If I could, Karen, before you, I couldn't find it, but I remember reading something about setbacks off of alleys.
Yeah, that's the 20-foot rear,
Just in the rear, there's
just because
nothing,
that's where the alley is on this property.
but there's nothing to onto the side setback for an alley?
No, it doesn't,
Just a side setback.
It was just the rear alleys?
just the rear alleys,
I thought there, okay.
yeah.
That's just the loading zone.
Well, it'd be a side setback if it's
Virtually
adjacent
every
to,
alley in downtown
To
Romeo.
residential, there's a
Residential
side
on the side.
setback, yeah.
But because it adjoins, because it's
depends
not
on where the
residential.
alley is. If
Yeah,
it's on the side of the
because
building or the rear of the building. In this
it's
case,
the rear.
it's on the rear of the
behind
building.
But there is an alley on the side, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
but
with
that's
barber shop
commercial,
there.
commercial.
Right,
Yeah, but I still thought there was a setback. From.
Coming
alleys.
off West St. Clair
I
is
understand.
commercial,
I know where
commercial.
it's at.
Right,
I understand, I know.
he's
Off
just
the
saying he
back
thought
is
that there
the
was
park.
for that alley as well, because there's the two.
Yeah.
The park.
Because I thought I remember it being brought up when Youngers built the deck. That, because behind them was an alley, there was but that was in the back, but I
It was in
didn't know
the
if
rear.
that still applied.
But it wasn't when they built the house, the building on Harriet's, on Bailey. That's built lot line to lot line, 10
Yeah,
feet
that
into a
one.
non-zoned
Yeah, right.
property parcel that's not even correct.
Yeah.
Be careful when we go down that path. Not only did they not meet the 20 feet, they built into 10-foot of residentially zoned property.
Okay.
All right, thank you for giving us a chance to speak. We really do appreciate it. My name is Paul Bowers. I grew up in Romeo. I'm a graduate of Romeo High School. I'm the owner of Avery and the developer of this parcel. This development is going on a better part of 4 years, so we did not take the development lightly. In saying that, I'd like to present a couple things to you guys, if you don't mind. If you could kind of run that around the room. The first thing I'm present to you guys is a letter of support from the DDA, which if you read that, it goes along with their master plan that shows in the downtown area, multifamily apartments represents 1% of the total structures within the village. If you read their data on population growth, they summarize to say the village is currently sustaining its population, but it doesn't have much room for future population growth. In saying that, like I said, it goes along with their alignments on a 5-year strategic plan that they just rolled out to try to enhance the village by bringing residents here, which will affect the businesses in a positive way by bringing people here that will shop and live and enjoy our great village. So you guys can read that. The second one is, if you can run that around the room, it is a letter of recommendation from Macomb County Planning and Economic Development. Part of this project, which is a big part, is the current site, which includes both the cleaners and the adjacent old Romeo Observer buildings, are both baseline brownfield sites, which means the state of Michigan has reviewed the sites and because of a tank leak in the cleaners, they have dubbed those sites priority number 1 to clean up. So Macomb County is working with us through this development and the state of Michigan to clean the site up. So they will come in, they will get rid of the dirt, they will get rid of the buildings, and they will get rid of the brownfield. So at the end of this project, the site will be clean of a brownfield. How they rank those is commercial, residential in a downtown environment,
is a number one. It's the first one they go to in wanting to clean up. So you can read that. Secondly, we are open to answer any questions, but one comment, if you don't mind, Bill, I can answer on. We kind of did some local review, and I can pass this around too for you guys to look at. Of our neighboring villages, if you take Lapeer CBD area, they have 0 parking requirements for residential in the CBD space. They have 0 parking requirements for a retail in a CBD space. The village of Oxford on first and second floor has 0 requirements in their CBD space. And on the third floor, they make you adhere to the rule, which is 1.5 beds per unit, and they have a 0.2 visitor unit. So, and then Auburn Hills, their downtown district has 1 parking space for 1 bed, 1.5 for 2 bed. Washington Township has 1.5 per dwelling, so it doesn't matter how large the apartment is. Royal Oak has 1.5 per dwelling, and the city of Rochester is 1.5 for 1 bed and 2 for 2 beds. In saying all of that, if you look in comparison to Romeo, the village of Romeo, the current requirements, the planner is correct, we would have to provide 75 parking spots. In that same requirement, Lapeer, we'd have to offer 0. Oxford, we'd have to offer 12. Auburn Hills, we'd have to offer 36. Washington Township, 48. Royal Oak, 48. And Rochester, 52. In saying that, I think our closest neighbors are a good reflection of kind of where maybe the village should be. I know we haven't had a project of this size in a long time, and you know, I don't know how they came up with those requirements, but they far exceed the neighbors. So, you know, we are, and then if you look at the following sheet in that same document, these are projects that Krieger-Clack, this is Jason from Krieger-Clack, by the way, sorry to introduce him. These are projects that he's recently have been built in, you can see the areas, Royal Oak, Ferndale, Clawson, Novi, Plymouth, Orchard Lake. If you look at one of similar size in Orchard Lake, which has 30 units, that particular complex had to offer 1.25 parking spots per residential use, which is what we currently are at. So as we come to you, there's a couple things I want to offer up, that this project is going to clean up the site. It's going to provide the DDA with what they're looking for. I believe that this project can be a great beacon for this village. It can bring residents that want to shop and live in our great village. Not everybody wants to have a house or a yard. You know, downtown living needs to have some form of apartments, especially ones within a multi-tier platform where they have, you know, gym amenities and, you know, some retail on the first floor. Partner this with the park being behind them. We have worked in tandem with the DDA to get some grants to clean up that entire block. So our plan, if you look at the mixed-use plan that we provided, you'll see in there one of the last pictures shows the rear side of the building, which shows pavers and some street lights and some Edison lights spanning kind of the buildings. We did offer murals on both sides of the buildings. Our idea there is to work with the DDA through a Michigan grant for redevelopment to redevelop that whole block. So to get all the power lines moved underground, to make that area a real beacon. They'd like that alleyway to maybe have a big sign over the top of it that says, "Welcome to North Park Village," whatever. So it's more than just our development. We're looking for a block development. This will be instrumental, working in tandem with the DDA. So as I present this as one project, I want to look at it as a whole. That you know, I live here, I've been here my whole life, and I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm spending a lot of money on this building, and I want to bring the best that I can to the village. So as we present to you maybe some variances that we will require, realize they are out of good intentions. So to answer some of these, the rear setback, we do ask the planning commission to waive the rear setbacks. There is alleys surrounding this entire development, and there is parking on the backside along the park. So the rear setback, we don't feel is needed because there is ways to get around it. And that does meet the ordinance of where rear setback doesn't have to be provided. Again, that has to be waived by you guys. We do plan on combining the parcels, and we will seek that approval. We will schedule a public hearing for the special land use as needed. We do ask that the board understands the complexity of the project and realize the amount of effort and financial wherewithal it's going to go into this project. And we ask that the parking be reviewed for the neighboring villages and cities, and that the parking that we are provided seemingly is adequate for the neighbors, and I believe it should be adequate for what we are intending to build here. I'm going to let Jason jump in, and that's all I have. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that was very well said, and a lot was covered. I'll just add a couple things. Basically, what we're providing right now is one space per bedroom. If you were to do the math, we're primarily one beds, so we have 24 one beds and 8 2 beds. It is common to be between 1 and 1.5 parking spaces per unit in almost all of the communities that we've worked in. Thinking about Royal Oak, for example, it's 1.5, as Paul said, but every project we've gone in for approvals in Royal Oak, there's been either a variance or a PUD to lower it. What we're seeing across all communities, I know every community is different, but the trend is everybody's lowering their parking ratios because they'd rather have less parking, more apartments, if you can have more amenities, things like that, because what we're finding is that between 1 and 1.5 is where everybody tends to be parking. It's not common in a downtown to park on site. Usually people are parking within the downtown. I think Ferndale is one of them, but it's very rare. So we feel comfortable with the ratio that we're at, and we're hoping that, you know, folks who are going to the retail that's on the ground floor, they do park in one of the lots, and they're forced to walk by other restaurants and businesses, and they can, you know, frequent those spaces as well. So overall, we're very proud of this development. It's been great working with Paul on this. We're having a really good time, and we're happy to be here, and we're here for any questions that you guys may have.
I'm gonna ask Ms. Lavere a question regarding the parking. I think that's my biggest concern of, I think the renderings, what you guys have presented, they're beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful building, and I like the idea of the mixed use. I agree. I think there needs to be more opportunities for, you know, not single family homes, but other options for living. But I think it says, it's 8 required spaces for the, commercial portion of the building, correct?
Right.
Plus, they would need, even if we downsized and said when I was over here doing some math. So you're saying you have 40 available, that's on your drawings right now, you have 40 spaces, right? Is what
Total,
you're presenting, total. So that's like 32, so you're saying each unit would only have 1 parking spot, and then you still have the 8, right? 'Cause
Well,
they need 8 for the
It's not even
commercial.
Yeah.
spaces for the commercial.
Each apartment would, in sense, have 1.25 parking spaces. We ask that the retail follow some of the neighboring villages that have 0, and most of them do. Lapierre's 0, the village of Oxford is 0, the city of Auburn Hills is 0, Royal Oak is 0. So my point in saying that is CBD districts, why they have 0 parking for retail is because they want retail to come to the area. And this is the draw, right? So to hinder businesses with parking isn't the idea of a CBD in general. So as the village currently has, I think, one for 500 square foot, it does not follow what the neighboring village or cities of similar size do. Now, I'm not here to defend, it's just numbers. So we feel that, like Jason says, bringing people from other areas, across other areas to see other stores, to see FAMs, maybe the art, a couple of the art places we have, is a draw. You know, if you bring people right to that location, they do their thing, they leave. That's not how a CBD is supposed to be developed. I understand that, you know, the village in general over the years has, you know, tried to build lots and this and that. That's not something we can ultimately control, but, you know, I feel that this development does a very good job of bringing the residents a parking spot, which is our main goal, and the retail would follow to have to park in the lots or on the street.
One thing just to point out, because this does come up, so I'm used to this, but Paul's gonna have to manage the parking, right? So as folks are coming in, if they're saying, hey, we need 2 spots, and if you're parked out, then they probably won't rent from you, right? So that's his job to manage that and make sure that the place is parked properly. That's just part of the management.
Yeah, I mean, our parking spots within the building will be numbered and they will be policed by us. So there will not be outsiders just parking there. They will be there for the use of the residents. On top of that, we are offering a gym, we are offering some amenities, so it's not just your old school apartment complex. We're trying to make it more of a warm and inviting complex. We have on the first floor some work at home environments where people can come down. There'll be a coffee shop there, there'll be a fireplace there where they can put their laptop and get out of their house. You know, these are the trends that villages and in towns in general are heading towards. You know, our spot, I think, will have some electric charging stations in it, so we understand the dynamic of that down the road. And like I said, in general, we have to get the power lines in that area moved underground. So that's gonna happen as either part of our development or in tandem with the DDA. Just that in of itself is gonna clean up that entire alley, and that entire backside of the building. The park will look better, the alley will look better, it'll have murals on the wall. We're gonna put a sidewalk down the alley on the side of our building, so that alley won't be so dangerous. The DDA would like to close off that alley from 32, and I don't blame them, because it should be. The alley in general is probably not the best in access to get down there off 32. We'll obviously work with the road commission along 32 on what the requirements are for, you know, trees. We'll work with the, you know, the tree commission here. Currently, the trees that are there are outgrown the area, as I'm sure most of you have seen. You know, we're gonna fix up the sidewalk there. We're gonna put planters across the entire face of the building. The front facade of the building carries over the limestone on the first floor. And if you notice, and I don't know which rendering it gave you, but our brick and limestone wraps the entire building. So we did not try to cheapen up our development. I know you mentioned another developer's development on the south side of the building. This is much different. This is a legacy building that will be here for generations. It's built out of stone, it's built out of brick, it's built out of limestone. This is not a one-off, you know, residential development that's gonna start peeling in a couple weeks.
You're not building to sell it.
I'm not building it to sell it. It's my building, I'm gonna keep it, it's gonna have my name on it. And it's a legacy project, and like I said, when I looked on where to develop, I live here, this is where I spend my money, this is where I develop. I have multiple properties that I own in the village. I have multiple houses that I own in the village, so I don't plan on going anywhere. So this project will be done correctly. The company that we hire to do the construction will work in a zero lot line atmosphere. They will be aware of that. We've talked to a number of construction companies, and they understand the dynamics of working in a village. You know, you're not gonna see a bunch of insulation blowing all around. It'll be part of construction, we'll work through it. You know, but my name's on the line. And as, you know, for the ones that don't know me, I've been around this area for a long time, and I don't plan on going anywhere, so. Any other questions I'd love to answer?
Units, apartments, apartment units, or condo units?
Apartments, not condos.
Condos.
Yep. Here's why. Condos are covered. You have condos south of town. What you don't have in this village currently is apartments. You don't have a place for the guy who just graduated from college that wants to get a higher end apartment in the village. You don't have a place where a family that their kids are all gone, they don't want to mow a yard, but they don't want to own a house. So that's what this offers. It's a different dynamic than what you guys currently have. So yes, it will be apartments, and it will be apartments forever. We're not building it to sell it later as condos.
What we see a lot, I would consider this, it's almost like a lifestyle type of apartment. It's a market rate, high end, very, very nice. What we tend to see a lot, as crazy as it sounds, is snowbirds will rent it, and then they stay maybe 4 or 5 months of the year, you know, when they come back to visit the family. So you're gonna totally get some of that.
Yeah. You know, I can tell you the interest, just that when we've talked to the DDA and the people we have out that have talked to us about the project, we could probably have rented out almost the entire condo complex already. Our plan is, we currently own a building across the street. We plan on having a rental office there. So as people are interested in renting, there will be a place they can come in, look at how the finishes are. We are going to also offer some of the units fully furnished for people that come in from out of town. You've got a lot going on at 32 with big developments over there. You're going to need some places for people that want an extended stay, where they come in, they want it to be fully furnished. We've seen that with insurance companies that we had a customer where their house burned down and they needed a place to stay. So we had a house, they rented it. Julie is here, she's my property management higher up. So she is in Romeo almost every day of her life at one building or another. Jim is with PEA, another area civil engineer. So he's here if you have any civil engineering questions. And then Brody is also with Krieger-Clack. Jason with Krieger-Clack, if you guys want to look them up, they build very high-end apartments. That's what they do. They're not your run-of-the-mill type company. When we searched out the architect, we searched them out on purpose. There was a lot of other architects between here and Royal Oak that we could have picked. So as I don't want our complex to be compared to Royal Oak, Rochester, or anywhere else, because I think Romeo stands on its own 2 feet, I think that sometimes you do have to utilize some of their hindsight because they've done this before, whereas this would be a new venture for the village. So all I ask is that we look to them maybe as a little bit of guidance in saying, hey, we've never built something like this in the village, but you got the right guy that's going to be a partner in this. I just ask that some of these variances we work together on because I don't feel like they are that out of the norm. If we came to you and made the entire first floor apartments with 0 parking, yeah, that would be a different animal altogether. We tried very hard to leave the commercial space alone on the first floor because we think that's important to the development, because there is a need for that. If we had to, we could wipe out all the commercial space on the first floor and make it all parking, but I don't think that helps anybody out. So, you know, that's my 2 cents on that. I don't get a vote, so. But I'm open for any other questions.
First off, the fact that you want to build something in that area, I totally understand and I do accept it. But in keeping with the village and what we display, what we show, what we try to show other communities that we have an old town feel to it. To go put something like this up right next to the Four Corners, and it is, this is something that, yeah, sure, Rochester, Royal Oak, wherever you want it, but I do not see this being in Romeo, in this design. You wanna build something there, that's great, I understand what you're doing, but let's try to keep it in keeping with the way the rest of the village in the downtown area looks. It can be done.
So my answer to that, we went in front of the Historical Society. They were very happy with the development, the way it looked. In general, my response to that is the village just didn't appear yesterday. The village has been growing since the 1800s, and every time along the way, when a building wanted to exist, there was a person that said the same thing, that it doesn't fit in. But it does fit in when you look at it in hindsight 100 years from now. That building will be there, and it will be a building that our kids remember as always being there. The problem is we're looking at a village that has never changed, and I love the fact that it hasn't changed, but at some point it will change. And to have somebody that is from the village that does take design keys into play during design, I think is beneficial. The stonework is very expensive. The brickwork is very expensive. We tried to carry that over from the next door bank. So, I mean, as we might have differing in taste, I guess I don't totally agree that it doesn't fit in, because if you look at anywhere in time of a snapshot, nothing ever fits in. It fits in over time. And that's what I explained to the village, the Historical Society, and they completely agreed with me. They actually thought the building, they would like to see it in a more modern tone, because that represents 2025, and 100 years from now, they kind of want to see 2025. I said to them, I'd like to build a building that more fits kind of somewhere in the middle. So that's where we came up with what we presented to you today. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
Anyone else? Any thoughts, discussions?
I mean, mine's off topic, I kind of don't know if Justin knows the answer to this. Do we still have, like, for the commercial parking to remove that, is there still a fee-based system to do that? Does that still exist?
There's still a payment in lieu of fee.
Is it still $25 or something?
It's minimal, yes.
Something ridiculous.
It's
Well,
$100.
I know it used to be thousands, but
Yeah.
it's been lowered for a period of time.
For a period, yes.
So like I can see like getting around the 8 for a nominal fee. But that's, I mean, but what I would say to like where our parking restrictions stand is that the reason that these places can do these things with restricted parking in lowered amounts is they have on-street parking, as you said, and this place just doesn't at all at night. You can't park on the street unless you figure out how to make it work, but they ticket you, trust me. They do. But I understand what you're saying, and I understand the quantities, so it's.
Well, to answer that, the carryover would be that, you know, like Jason said, it would be our job to self-police who we're
Yes.
bringing in. That 1.25 parking spots meets the needs of the village. We do no good to the village to make one of our residents go park their car and get ticketed.
No, I get it.
So, as we number the spots, we will make sure that the numbered spots correlate with the requirements of who we're allowing to rent these units. As 1.25 seems like an odd number, you have to remember it's in a totality that some person might have 1, other people might have 2, but this is an average of all. So for a defined 2 per, that's not really how developments of this sort type work. It's more of an averaged amount.
And folks are getting tickets, so you guys get ticketed if you park on the street overnight?
Yeah.
So that's common in some communities, just like what you said, and it's gonna boil right down to him managing it, or else you won't have tenants in there.
Andrew, the parking in lieu fee was for the commercial. It has
That's what I'm
nothing-
saying, so they can get around the 8
No,
spaces.
they cannot, they can do it for the,
Not for the residents.
They can
they
get
can
it,
do it for the commercial. They can't
I know.
do it for the,
I get it, I'm just saying, like, so we go from the 76 to 68. as compared to this, but I understand.
It would apply to the 8 that they need for the
That's
commercial
correct.
portion. That 8, they could just.
Some
pick
of it
up
they
the-
can get around,
Right.
and literally,
Rest of it, the-
without variances, but,
Just dead presidents.
yeah, two, I think.
I think that's my, just knowing how our parking is in the village, I think that's my biggest concern is that parking. It's already difficult, just running uptown to go stop somewhere real quick. I've had to do that, I've had to circle 3-4 times around that block just to park somewhere so that you can get onto Main Street to go somewhere up and down there,
Park at my house, you can go upstairs.
right?
But
Just walk from there.
But I
So
do understand what he's saying, where it's his to police, and if
If
his
it's
people are
his-
getting
right.
tickets, then they aren't gonna live there very long.
Yeah, and I would agree, it's, Jason just
Right.
brought up a point, having that kind of, want and need for the village, you have that many people, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for a village, believe me, ghost town villages, you all know of them, they're around the area, nobody benefits from that. So, we did not try to monopolize our first floor with more commercial along Rawls, which we could have offered. We tried to utilize the parking to the best of our ability. We're also allowed to, our side street parking is ours to utilize too. So, go ahead.
Just one other thing to point out, how many square feet was the ground floor, 2,600 for the
No,
commercial?
30.
Well, but the commercial is 2,600, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Something like that, so it's only a couple thousand square feet. That type of retailer or commercial space, it's really like an accessory to the downtown. You know what I mean? You're going to get people who are passing by going in there. is
You
what you're
obviously did some study on if you, and Paul mentioned, what happens if you did take out the retail? How many more spots would you pick up?
We did not do a study of that only because of the demand for the retail. And everybody we talked to wanted, including the DDA, they wanted the retail. So we didn't, it would look very odd to have just parking under the building,
No,
so,
you could have the same,
I don't know, what do you feel like that would offer?
you could do the same facade.
we could probably get some parking, but from a,
You'd still want the amenity side.
yeah, well, right, we're still gonna have the amenity. I don't even know if we can get more than 3 or 4. I have to look at it.
Yeah.
But because you're still have to circulate around, and it's poor urban design to do that. The best thing we could do is actually have an active space, whether it's the residential lobby or preferably a retail space that folks can go in and use. And we keep talking about different communities, but as an example, just because it's top of mind, because we're talking about it, in Royal Oak, at the corner of 11 and Main, I don't know, 15 years ago, they built a condominium development there, and they parked right up to the sidewalk, and they have like faux windows. And now everybody's complaining, well, they have been complaining about it, and that's now used as an example for future projects. They don't wanna see that because it's inactive, it's dead space. So we wanna keep it active along the sidewalk.
Right.
Does the language still exist? I know years and years ago, there was overflow parking, there you could have agreements with different lots. Does that still exist, Mr. Parker, do you know? There used to be, you've owned apartments in the village over a number of years, there used to be, you could have agreements with, like, the Abbey, something like that, where you could say, hey, I need spaces. You could buy banked spaces from people.
I don't think you're
Did
gonna
they get, did it get
residential.
just,
That was
it doesn't work?
recently
Well,
talked
let-
about.
Commercial
With-
only?
with-
Let me ask you a question, if I own a parking lot currently in the village.
Oh, let me finish, please.
Yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
yeah, no.
Yeah, they talked about it in the past with overflow for the restaurants coming in. but
Yeah.
you couldn't overflow into the residential for commercial use.
Okay, so you can't use it for apartments?
That was a problem.
For residential, maybe, but not as overflow for commercial.
No, I'm saying, but he can get around the commercial, what the issue is the apartments.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to think.
You're asking.
Because he
could
can wipe out the commercial
if
concern
he
with
could buy
the fee.
If he could buy spaces from the Abbey.
Right.
Well,
But then the Abbey's
If,
being
then I
used as
understand, I
commercial.
think there's a
And
distance you
that's
can
an
do
issue
it.
with the Abbey.
Right.
I don't know
being
if there's a
residential.
Yeah, but you have residential parking.
We had that with,
But they've then rented spots.
that was
and
last
that's
year,
using it as a
somebody they had an
commercial lot.
agreement, they were gonna use.
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
So I currently own the parking lot across from the, right on the corner of Lafayette and right across from,
Behind People's Driven.
you know where it's at, behind People's Driven.
Yeah.
We could tie that to our building for overflow residential. I'm fine with that. The only idea is, we were gonna utilize that spot in conversations with the DDA for a future parking structure. And I have not obviously opposed you guys with any of that yet, but we have plans that we're working on. So, as I could do that, I wouldn't wanna be pigeonholed long-term if we did something for the betterment of the village in that stratosphere, because we do have plans for on that side and on that particular parcel, but I have no problem pairing our two properties together for overflow residential parking that we can't put on our lot.
It's just something to consider, is all I'm saying.
And it's in walking distance from our development.
Okay, so this plan that you have right here has 40 spaces on it, correct?
Correct.
We have 40.
Correct.
So that would give you, because you've got 24 one-bedroom units and 8 two-bedrooms, so that would just be one parking space per unit regardless of whether it was a 1 or 2 bedroom, plus your 8 for your, right? Did I do the math right? Yeah, that's 40.
It's one car per bedroom, right?
Well, it'd be 1.25
You have
per,
one per unit.
it would be 1.25 per dwelling with no,
One per bedroom.
one per
One
bedroom.
But we
That's what-
currently have.
Okay.
You'd have one per unit plus an 8 left over.
We do.
Minimum.
Yeah.
2 for 1 bedroom, and then another 1.5 for the extra bedroom, or another half. So you'd have to have 2.5 for a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, so if the residential side can be paid away in better terms, commercial, sorry.
The 8.
In reality, you're talking about 40 spots for the 32 apartments, which works out to a pretty good ratio in comparison. So, and that's without linking any parking lots or anything else to the deal.
Where are the guests gonna park?
Where these are, the guests?
Yeah.
Well, even if,
On street.
yeah, I mean, they could, or,
I mean, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 restaurants in that block already, and they're all counting the same parking spots that you're counting.
guests in general for apartments are every so often, yes, maybe. If you take into account Oxford, they take in 0.2 for visitors, 0.2 per unit. So it is minute. I'm just giving you with the math I have, but it's 0.2. So in general, they do not figure guests are gonna make up that large of a usage per se. And their usage is gonna be, hey, come grab me, we're gonna go out and do something. It's not, hey, I'm gonna spend the night for 3 days, normally. And remember, these are 1 bedrooms for a reason. We tried to keep the usage to where these apartments can be feasible for, the younger clientele, with also 8 2-bedrooms for, people that want to have a little more room. So we didn't just pigeonhole ourselves. We didn't make them 3 beds, because that would have been in, nobody's best interest. We also did not make lofts, because lofts are a big thing they do in Royal Oak and everywhere else. Jason can tell you. You can get a lot more density in a loft, studio apartment.
That's not the market here.
That's not the market here. So we tried to drive towards the market. We could have shrunk these down, but, and utilized our square footage better, more economic for the development. We tried to make them in a way that gave a nice footprint for the 1 and 2 bedroom. So we did try to take into account the end user, because we plan on, like I said, keeping the building long-term.
Okay, Ms. LeBear, so at this meeting right here and now, we just need to, we would just be addressing the commercial space. That's correct, with nothing, just,
You could, if you wanted to, this is a unique piece, in theory, you can take action on the commercial space, but since it's all tied, I think I would recommend maybe waiting, because everything is gonna be affected by all the uses going in.
right?
So, no decision can be made on the apartment aspect, but on the commercial and parking for the commercial aspect. In theory, a decision could be made or could be postponed for when we have the public in for the apartment, so we can look at it as one piece.
So basically, it's a concept only. this point in time.
It's a preliminary review.
Preliminary, yeah, but I mean, it's concept, it's
Yeah.
subject to change 6 ways to Sunday.
Well, it's not subject to our change, we're not gonna change it.
Well, no, I
We've
mean, it's
already-
gotta be, there are a lot of hoops to jump through.
Oh, yeah, always in life, there's hoops.
There's been a lot of representations about things that are gonna happen, burying lines and whatever.
Mhm.
Do we have a long list of those?
Sure.
Before we make any,
Well, things that have to happen, we have to move the electrical underground, has to. And so we're either gonna bear that cost as part of the project, or we are going to work with the DDA for a redevelopment of that whole entire block, which is what we are working with them to do, because it's more than just the lines that cross our
we
property.
don't have any money.
These are all grants. These are no cost. They're actually very good at grant writing, and they have a grant writer there. This is all paid for by the state of Michigan. The brownfield, all paid for by the state of Michigan. This is not asking the DDA to come out of pocket for these funds.
Just as the statements you've made.
Yep.
I'd like to see a list of the things that you're going to have happen, or have to happen in tandem with the development of the project.
So,
It's possible that you can get a granting.
It
that's
is.
specific to those items being made or taken.
well, there's two possibilities. We pay for DTE to bury the lines, or we get a grant. Those are the only two possibilities. So, both of which will or one of which will happen. So, that has to happen for the construction of the project. That's like saying the water main we have to tie into. These are all like, processes we have to,
You physically couldn't build
Yeah.
a building with the lines the way they are.
which the lines,
You
and
needed to move the building 15,
Right.
16 feet in,
Yeah.
and then at that point, it makes it not feasible to build.
which the lines in general have been ignored for the better part of decades. They have old, you guys know, you've seen the power lines. In the village, the power lines are a huge obstacle for anybody.
List? Okay.
So the next thing we have to do is we have to have a public hearing for a special land use, correct?
Correct, right? That, yes, we'd have to have the,
A public hearing needs to be scheduled to start, have a public hearing for the apartments.
So there's a mailing,
Okay.
We're just having a discussion.
pretty much.
And then if all those lines are buried, we're getting into my realm a little bit, what cost is that gonna put onto every other business along there now that has overhead service? They're gonna have to endure a cost then.
They will reposition a pole. The idea is that that doesn't happen, and we get the grant, so we can get rid of all the power lines for the betterment of the entire park.
I respect that, but
Yeah.
we've looked at that in the past.
Right.
I've been with the DDA and I've walked with DTE and we've looked at bearing lines throughout the village. And the big thing that most of the businesses pushed back on was while someone could pay DTE, there could be grants that would pay DTE to bury all that. Each individual business still would have an expense to tie in.
Because you're bringing the power underground to there.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
currently all over.
Yeah. they have to do the,
Well,
they have to pay.
yeah.
That was just, that was
I
the
think-
big thing that we got pushed back when we originally talked about this. I think it was 4 or 5 years, not even when you say originally, brought it up again when we talked about it. I didn't realize that that was part of this, so I would like to see what the businesses in that area would feel, because while it's better for everyone, getting rid of overhead, I agree.
So,
It's still an expense.
Speaking of what he's saying, DT has a pilot program right now where these grants are not being available because they wanna start getting rid of overhead
Mhm.
lines,
Exactly.
encumbering building positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those do exist now, and I'm assuming that's what the DDA is gonna try to
Yeah.
reach out for.
They've already laid the groundwork for that. There's more than even the DTE grants. There are redevelopment grants that we fit so perfect on. The historical nature of our village, up and coming village, the area in which the village is located. There's tons of boxes we check for a redevelopment grant of that entire area. To answer your question, if we had to rerun the electrical underground to say the housing to the south, we would reposition a pole over there and reconnect their electrical, whatever. I mean, this wouldn't be a fee we would have the residents pay for, the other buildings. It would be part of our development. So,
I'm more concerned about everything in the alley.
well, we would only affect like 2 buildings of the alley. You know what I mean? Because we only go so far. And then it would have to, in general, could reconvene overhead if needed. We only need it ran underground for our little square,
So
you know what I mean?
you're talking from Rawls to the alley is what you want to bury?
Correct.
And then have it come back up?
Yeah, so we would bury, this electrical, we would bury from here to here.
Okay, when you said bury, I thought you were talking everything.
No.
Quadrant.
It would be great if the idea with the grant is to bury the entire quadrant and clean up everything. If needed, if we didn't get the grant,
Residential to the west end wouldn't be affected, because they'd
No.
still have their poles, and then
yeah, we would,
see everything,
That residential comes down Starkweather Alley anyway, the transmissions between those buildings.
yeah.
yeah, but then it
That's
does
a big
shoot
step.
up
It
along
goes north,
in between
yeah,
the commercial.
yeah.
It comes up to all the overhead where the antique.
And that's what he'd be pulling down.
Yeah, that's what we'd be pulling down and
I thought you were
working
talking
through.
all the way up
No,
the alley.
no.
Grayson Main.
Nope, and we would do that in tandem with DTE and make sure people are not down in service. I mean, in general, you know, it's gonna all happen in tandem, you know? I mean, this all has to make, we can't, you know, be affecting other neighboring buildings, so we'll work together with DTE to make sure we're doing one and the same, so.
There'd be downtime.
Let's hope not, right?
Minimal. You get a minimal, but there'd be downtime.
Outside of that, Bill, the rest of it is internal to the actual lot, so we'd be tying into the water main that's already exists. We'd be tying into the sanitary that already exists. We're not asking for anything else from neighboring, buildings, or really, there's no other stipulations other than for us to follow through with the board to make sure we're getting all of our Ts crossed and the Is dotted, so everybody's happy with the development and we move forward. And we will obviously do all of our permitting properly. We have a very, we'll have a very well-versed construction company that does zero lot line construction. And we will make sure that they hire subs that are licensed and insured, and everything will be inspected. So as there's a lot of steps in this process, the first step was meeting with the Historical Society, which they approved in droves. They were very happy about this development. They really understood the brownfield side of it, which I really don't want that to go unrecognized, that this is a very big help for the area to clean it up. I mean, as much as we're talking about neighbors around the area, you have been leaching cleaning fluid into the ground for the better part of a decade that has went nowhere and will get cleaned up as part of this project. So for the neighbors, they will get that benefit. For the park or the people around the area, they will have a clean site, which might even help the Village of Romeo's insurance. I don't know what their rating is, but when you have a brownfield within your village, that can be negative on your rating. So there is benefits on that side, and that's why I wanted to present the Macomb County side of it, because as much as this is a Village of Romeo development, is a Macomb County development, and they are very excited about being able to bring people into Macomb County also on top of the village, so.
Mr. Parker, Justin Parker, our sewer and water have the capacity to handle all of this?
Water, yes. Sewer at this time, I believe, would be fine.
We have enough pressure to get it to the third floor if necessary?
They already do.
Or do you need a
We're
pump?
already currently pushing to third floors
Yeah, you're already shooting.
with
Okay.
fire suppression that's
Yeah.
been added to buildings.
Yeah,
We'll do a flow test
Yeah.
as well, to make sure we're.
we'll do a flow test if we need a pump. The building will be fully sprinkled,
Yep.
so whatever we need to make that difference up, we will obviously build into our design. The preliminary plans we gave you are just that, preliminary. There will be a whole design set, and we'll make sure that we meet all the criteria that the planners need in the village. Jim has instrumental in doing a lot of these projects locally. PEA is from Washington Township, so they're right down the street. They have this name on the building, so they're gonna wanna make sure they do a good job also, so, did you see any issues, Jim? He did all of the preliminary site review and where all the water mains were, and he thought that we met all the guidelines we needed for this building, so.
Lisa, I had a problem about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, as you know, they've taped that recently. In those lines, the sewer lines, those are the original sewer lines in the village of Romeo. At best, there are multiple taps there that don't seem to exist, meaning the buildings were there at one time. They tapped it and it's just been cut off. But you're dealing with damn near 200-year-old lines. What happens when you cut into them? That's your problem.
I mean, yeah, that's part of our problem, right?
You know, you're getting into something which has been discussed quietly on part of the capital improvement.
They just lined
program,
one of them.
is that these things go back 200 years, and
140.
everyone's been waiting for them to fall apart for a long time.
And saying that, I know we went back in historical records of these two sites, and there has been probably 12 different types of buildings on this property. So when we clean up the earthworks, we will also be cleaning up any of the mess left over from that. Old lines that are open tapped or whatever. I mean, we will get a nice clean site to start with. So that is the nice part about the brownfield coming in, is they don't hide anything. They get rid of the soils, they clean it all up.
Sure.
Okay. So, do we need to,
Table until the special land use
table it
happens.
until the special land use? Yes. And then we will get that scheduled.
So we want a motion to table?
Yes. Do we need to make a motion, or we can just table it?
Might as well.
I think we should do it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table until we schedule the special land use.
Okay.
Second?
And Bill Parker second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I didn't hear.
We were tabling the thing.
Good.
If any of you guys need anything else from me, you can reach out, let me know.
Thank you.
I'll be sending
All
out a
right.
notice.
Motion to
for the
adjourn.
Public hearing.
Second?
And the notice in the paper.
Have you been sending stuff to Jason, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just send it to him,
Okay.
he'll do all of
Perfect.
the legwork.
Okay.
All right, sounds
All right,
good.
thank
Did you get it?
Yep.
Yeah.
You got
I'm
that?
sorry.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
One.
Anyone who wants to stay?